Life's good. A lot more international football going on right now. You got the Gold Cup, you got the Club World Cup kicking off. It's just a good summer of football, you know?
Is it life good just because of football, or any even new changes in your life you want to tell the listeners out there?
No new changes. We just
No.
still copacetic, still keeping it moving, you know?
Okay.
Yeah. I want to give everybody thanks again for giving us a listen to Dim Boys Watch Footy. Our TikTok is starting to grow a little bit. Y'all are really starting to mess with our content on there. It's really nice to see. Sometimes you just got to be consistent with posting, and people will be able to watch. Also, our Spotify is still growing. Our YouTube channel, we just hit 1.1K listeners. So, hey, life is good right now, especially for us over at Dim Boys Watch Footy. But first, let us jump right into it with the Club World Cup. Everybody thought this tournament was kind of a throwaway. We discussed it ad nauseum on this platform, talking about the different group stage matches that we could see. If we were going to be able to see some actual good football with their actual first teams playing, how many kids are going to be playing. We've seen some blowouts. We actually saw a semi upset. You really called it out, TC. You had Boca Juniors versus Benfica that went to a 2-all draw earlier today. So, yeah, TC, want to see what you want to discuss first about the Club World Cup.
Look, I think we had Club World Cup was bringing a whole bunch of really big teams, a lot of cool matchups. I think the one that really hit me up was the story about the Auckland City players and their
Yeah.
team itself. Auckland City, for those who don't know, is really just a base. It's really made up of players of myself and actually E, not E, a bit more talented than E, but really players who have jobs. These are guys that football's their hobby, and here they are playing against Bayern Munich, for instance, or playing in the Club World Cup. They played against Bayern Munich, and I heard that story because I turned on and I was watching the score, which eventually was 10-0.
Mm-hmm.
And I was realizing some of these guys have got actual jobs. This is just what they do on the weekend, like what I do. I was scoring on the weekend, and so were these guys, but against Thomas Muller, except they weren't. And I think that's kind of the craziest story about it. And then you see like guys like Thomas Muller who are celebrating their goals, but you're playing against the gardener who's like 9 to 5 is cutting grass on a school field,
Yep.
So that's just a real cool matchup, I thought. And I think, like you said, some of the matchups that we see with all the different teams, and then obviously I think the next thing is obviously the attendances of the games, which I'm sure you'd love to jump into.
Yeah. I mean, I do want to echo your sentiments about that 10-0 with Bayern versus Auckland City. Yes, they are men with real 9 to 5s. Some actually called out. Others were like, "No, I actually have to stay to go to my job every day," which was also another crazy thing. Like, you have a chance. You're being paid. Your club is going to make at least 1 million just to go travel to the United States for about 3 weeks of your time, and you're like, yeah, I don't have the PTO right now. Y'all gonna have to
That's
just play
wild.
without
That's
me.
wild. Hey,
Now,
that's wild. The boss like, no, you can't go. Sorry, you cannot go and play against friggin' Dembele and the boys because you got shit to do. You got stuff to do.
that's that is a crazy thing, but I mean, props to the team that actually did show up. I do love the fact that Elise, when he was asked, he was just like, yeah, I do not feel bad for them. They came to play just like us. They're champions of their league, just like us. I mean, Auckland City has won a championship in a bit, but
Yep.
their coefficient is the reason why they are in the Club World Cup right now. I mean, it's awesome to have attendance from a New Zealand squad. Like, think about this type of competition in years past where you had, even though in this iteration, in this form of the Club World Cup, it's not the same, but in the past, you would never have teams have a chance on this grand of a stage to be able to play against other teams way higher up in the UEFA coefficient or the FIFA club coefficient. So it's really dope to see. I mean, the breadth of people being able to travel, converse. Again, my big thing is the fact that you can actually get scouted. So let's say you're the best player on New Zealand squad. Suddenly you have a chance to be in a second or a third division squad over in Europe, or you could be playing over in the MLS. just because of the fact that your squad made it over here to play against Bayern Munich. So if you didn't get completely uh, taken out by, let's say, a Olise or Musiala who came off the bench and scored a hat trick, like you still have a chance to get your game in front of a lot of different scouts and a lot of different talent evaluators. And somebody can find a place for you. So I'm truly loving that, even though it was a 10-0.
No, of course. Hey,
Yeah.
look, the scouts can't see you. You're on a big platform. You're getting hammered 10-0. I guess you're right. The scouts checking like the little bit of brilliance that you're able to put into the game. If there is ability, like, you know what I mean, you'll see. So you're right. I think that is a bigger platform for them, especially coming from that league. I think that's looking at the glass half full. I think some of the other games that were there, like the Inter Milan Al Ali game, was a bit of a disappointment, a 0-0 draw there. I think one of the biggest capacity games so far, only because of obviously Lionel Messi, the first game as well. Some opportunities from what I watched in the game. To be fair, Al Ahly really had more of the handful of chances.
Yeah.
Into Miami were really like, other than a few like here's and there's, like a few.
Messi was trying everything
Messi.
to score in that match. He hit the woodwork like 3 times.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Al Ahly really should have scored. To be fair, I was actually quite disappointed they didn't. They had the same kind of skilled finishing as a blind bomber, just not able to really hit the target with time and space, but they played some good football.
Yeah.
The PSG Atletico Madrid game, interesting fact for you, Antoine Griezmann has not scored in like 987 minutes of football. Which is something crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, PSG taking that 4-0. Still fresh off their great campaign of double their treble season, continuing that fluid form of football, great football. Atletico Madrid, clearly, in my opinion, not the kind of Atletico Madrid I'm used to seeing in Diego Simeone's teams. Very rigid, very solid at the back. They don't often give more than 2 goals in a game. So clearly those guys are already on holiday, to be fair, ready for a bit of a break before preseason, because everyone knows that Diego Simeone does things in preseason that only Satan can imagine. So I can imagine that they just don't really give any flying two hoot halls and really just want to go on holiday. The Palmeiras Porto game as well.
Palmeiras should have scored so many goals in that match. Like that Brazilian squad was rocking, and the fact that they didn't score was insane.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I watched this afternoon was Chelsea versus LAFC. Chelsea were dominant, but what was quite funny for me though was the commentators. And the commentators have to be, I think, unbiased, but they were slightly biased in the fact that they were talking, and I think it's fair to do that. They're talking about LAFC as if they had more opportunities and could do things, had people on the bench to bring off the bench to change the game. And I was kind of looking at both benches going, no, not really at all. And I just got to be a realist about it. But that was just my own personal opinion. I mean, obviously, I watch a lot of Chelsea and not too much LAFC, but what I saw, dominance. So far, the games have been okay. I think we really want to see a bit of the group games are always going to be a bit of a stickler, a couple of weird matchups. We know where the real sticky honey guava juice comes, and that comes right at the end, after the group games.
When the actual creme de la creme rises to the top. I mean, you had Chelsea versus LAFC. You had Botafogo versus the Seattle Sounders. That was a 2-1 for Botafogo. Yeah, I mean, you have Flamengo versus ES Tunis tonight in about a half an hour from now over in the U.S. So, yeah, I mean, this first weekend has been good. Like you said, bringing up the attendance. The Inter Miami match, that was 68K. But right now, they're kind of dwindling and staying within the 20 to 30K range. Only shooting one side of the stadium just to make sure that those sides look packed. There was a photo that went out earlier today after the Chelsea LAFC match that was taking place over in Atlanta, and the sprawl of that shot where it just looked so empty. The fact that they're having these games in NFL stadiums and not MLS stadiums. Although Atlanta United's their games are played within the Atlanta NFL stadium's space. It was just a very surreal moment knowing okay, why are you posting a game like this on a Monday afternoon? People are already having a hard time to get off of work. Uh, yeah, you just can't see it during that time. So I think this should really give a little bit of pause to how the organizers of the World Cup are going to do games, especially because this is the audition the year before to make sure that the US is capable to stand up with all of the things that are going to happen next year. We're also
So,
seeing the political side of it as well, where there's been a lot of issues going on with the administration's directives, especially targeting people of color coming to the game. We already had a Boca Juniors player not be able to come into the country based off of his permitting, and then you had some matches over the weekend. Actual ICE were like in attendance, so you you're seeing a lot of different interesting issues that are going to be coming up during this time, and next year can this is the best way to kind of stamp it out now, be able to go back and just say, hey, can we just play football? Can we not have to deal with all of these issues within this? So these are some of the things I'm truly looking out for, especially with the World Cup on the horizon, and the organizers are using this tournament to get it right. Are you frozen there? Oh, lost TC there. But yeah, want to listen to what the listeners have to say about that, just solely because the things that are going on within the country, like that ICE stuff right now, is really appalling, and really the hearts go out to all the families, especially the people that are being affected, just trying to watch a game and they're being taken out of stadiums. So truly hope that this doesn't affect too many people just trying to enjoy themselves. Now, while we wait for TC to come back, we're going to switch over to the Gold Cup. Um, the last time that we were on, we were talking about how we needed to see what was going on with Mauricio Pochettino and this U.S. men's national squad. The Gold Cup just started. Mexico was able to get the first win of the tournament. Mexico defeated the Dominican Republic 3-2. And then the U.S. had to stand up after that 4-0 drubbing to Switzerland this past week. This past Sunday, they were able to defeat Trinidad and Tobago 5-0. It was a very interesting way to see it. You had some people that were coming back. Uh, you had Tim Ream trying to really show up in the back. You had Tillman, who I guess listens to the show because he was able to stand up with two goals. Haji Wright, name I haven't said in a very long time. Very happy to see that he's back as a striker. But this is a very interesting time for an audition. Usually, the SPJ has said many a time before on the show. Usually, you have. Uh, Usually you have like the B to C team going to the Gold Cup to be able to do these different types of events before, but because it's a new squad, a new coach coming in, really trying to understand what's going on, uh, it could have been taken as a slight because the U.S. men's national team, like, I get it, you need some rest over the summer, and this is a national tournament right now. But you see players that are playing for their clubs right now, so there is no reason as to why they shouldn't be playing unless you're saying, "Oh, my body was just that beat up on the regular season that I truly need this summer to take off." And if you feel as though that was the case, some other podcasts, specifically the Tim Howard and Landon Donovan podcast, they have a little bit more insight into the inner workings of what the players are talking about in those locker rooms, in that dressing room. There's some things that really need to be taken care of there because no matter what, we want the best for the players that are coming. And some of the issues that we're seeing with the men's national team have been very prominent, but I'm very glad that it hasn't really stopped what the overall message is. Hey, look, we got to win the Gold Cup this year. TC, I see that you're back. Want to see what you thought of this U.S. win over Trinidad and Tobago this past Sunday.
I think small steps. Um, no disrespect to Trinidad and Tobago, but I think what we want to see is definitely a good positive win. And I think it's not to get ahead of ourselves, to keep in the process, keep processes that Pochettino has put into place, and to
Mm-hmm.
keep building on that. I think this is just a building step, and in many scrimmages you'll have losses and you'll have wins. And
Hmm.
I think this is nothing to paper over the cracks. You're still looking for heart, still looking for desire from a team. So they really just need to kind of build in that, I think.
Very true. I mean, the B to C squad, seen as players that can get called up to the A squad. You have some players like Weston McKinney saying like, "Oh yeah, let's just let these younger players." Before, if you didn't play, you lose your spot. Now there's a little bit of entitlement going on that people are talking about, and I don't believe that to be true. But other former players have come out and said like, "This isn't the right attitude that we would like to see from these players." So it's something to really watch out for. You gotta still be able to stamp out your authority
Yeah.
within the team, and the best way to do that is to actually play. So we'll see what these this cream of the crop right now are going to be able to do. Uh, I'm very interested to see as to why Saudi Arabia is in the Gold Cup. That was a throw. I was like, wait, why are the Saudis in the Gold Cup? But they were
Yeah.
able to defeat Haiti 1-0. Costa Rica defeated Suriname, and then you have Panama versus Guadalupe is 4-2 going on right now. Big matchup later
Yeah.
tonight is going to be Jamaica versus Guatemala, so that'll be a very interesting one to see. Obviously, everybody wants to see either the U.S. versus Panama again, or you want to see U.S. versus Mexico, or you want to see Canada versus the U.S. Those are the big matchups that are really going to define this Gold Cup for the U.S. men's national team. What do you have to say about that, TC?
Look, I think there are some interesting matchups that come up. I think that, like any competitions, there are the big teams we do want to see, and there are kind of matchups that we have to go through as part of the group. So, yeah, as an interested fan, really interested to see some as we develop as we go further into the cup. Definitely some interesting ones, some payback matches. Definitely, as you mentioned just before, we've had some losses against Panama. We'd love to see them come back and our old enemy. So, yeah, those are some interesting, great ones. I think those teams have been developing quietly. So let's see how we do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one thing that the U.S. men's national team cannot do is not win the Gold Cup. Like, Pochettino needs this to kind of get rid of the jitters before going into this upcoming cycle of selecting players, understanding his team, and people actually having a solid foundation behind them. I know you guys have said before in the past, like, just wait and see. But right now, it's been a very, very, very thin stroke of anxiousness versus feeling really good about yourself. So we'll see what happens with this team. You know.
So Eric, this is how I feel about the U.S. team, and this is what I think that Pochettino is probably looking at. You know, in all honesty, fuck the Gold Cup, and I said it. What we're looking at is a long-term plan here. We're working towards the World Cup, a tournament which we are hosting. We're going to have it's in our backyard. So I think what he is trying to do is you're working on a stage by stage plan. You're trying to identify the crop of players, a group, whether it's 50 players that you're going to take to training camps, that you're going to get used to running into the World Cup. You want to see out of those players who's going to be your main 23, who's going to be your backup, who's
Yeah.
got the heart out of that, and that's what you want to build. You want to see what formation works. So these games are all about finding those parts out. I don't care if we win or lose, really. It's about going in there and learning about your squad. People have to understand now, and it's going to be a bit painful, but this is how you have to look at it if you're looking at a long term goal. If you look at how do we win this, great, cool. But we're looking at a long term goal, and that's what the squad has to be about. We're trying to build for something that is coming here, and you need to build the players for that. You want to get into practice consistency, muscle memory, the 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 procedures that the coach puts down, the formations, what he wants, what he needs from all of his players through all the training camps. And you're only going to get that by weeding out all the bullshit players and getting in the
Mm.
players who want to play, who want to be there, who want to be part of the World Cup. This is a once in a lifetime thing. So he is in one of those positions where you're a coach of a hosting country. It happens once in a lifetime. I need to emphasize that. And each he needs to find from those players. The other thing I think is interesting is that do you pick players for the US team based on their historic position in the team, or do you
Usually,
pick them
it
based on
used to
their
be like
form
that.
currently?
It used to be a mix
Exactly,
of
right?
both. It used to be a mix of both. You used to pick MLS players which was very interesting. You would usually get MLS players that were the captains of their squad, and they would go on because they were very strong, headstrong. They actually knew their roles. It wasn't as technical when they were first getting put in, but lately it's been more technical players coming out of the MLS. The other side of it were the European players that were actually getting a run of play. That's why we always had to see Landon Donovan play for like Everton or Clint Dempsey back when he was killing it with Fulham. Like you had on form players that were playing in Europe, playing against the best of the best over there. But you also had a mix of people that were still trying to make their way up, and then as well people that were headstrong within the MLS that were captaining their clubs. Now it's not as much, and you're starting to really see it. It's not many leaders on the squad. So
Look, yeah, I think leaders are one thing; it's ability and heart. So, like I said, I think he's just got to do it in stages, and I think that what you've got to realize, and I wish Peter was here to talk to it, is that it's something that any team that has a goal in mind, luckily it's not next week, it's in a year's time, so you can work for that. You can work to you can have time to look at who's playing well, a bit of a mix of that, your McKennies, your Tyler Adams, your linchpins, your leaders, get that. You should need to get a leadership group now. Get a group of leadership now who's saying, guys, we're going to the World Cup. We need a strong group of leaders who's going to be leading each department up and down, from here on onwards. You've got to, which guys are already on the plane. You know them already. Barring injury, you know which one's on the plane. There are some people you have to take currently, barring them being like absolute Neymar, which is just a capitulation of your ability. I'm not saying Neymar has a capitulation of his ability, but let's be honest.
he was just always injured at the latter half of his like prime, which really messed him up. You could say that he was played way too much as a kid, and some of those injuries, that one where he got kneed in the back and everybody thought it was nothing, suddenly you find out that it was the actual like spine was contused. So yeah, Neymar, he couldn't stay within his greatness that he built up. So it's really sad to see, but you're seeing players come out of his mold though. Desiree Doué from
Yes,
France.
if you had
So
told me in 2014 we'd be sitting here that Neymar would not have a Ballon d'Or,
yeah.
I would be telling you that you would be a faster swimmer than I would be. Okay, but so yeah, you're right. Injuries, haha. Maybe yes, he's definitely had injuries. He's frail. What has he done about that? What has he done
Yeah.
to look after himself? What is he? Why was he always injured around his sister's birthday? Why blah blah blah? There are things. Let's just not get into it. I don't want to be. I think Neymar himself, he will look back at his career and go, yes, all the talent in the world. To be fair, in his most formidable years, he was against like the greatest and Messi and Ronaldo. But that being said, there was times where he could have shined, and now we're talking about two incumbents to the throne
Hmm.
in friggin' Lamine and friggin' Doku, or for instance, other young kids. You know what I mean? Like completely skipping, like forgetting Mbappe is only 23, kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's the other thing. Um, so it's quite funny in that sense. I just think like we're sitting here talking about players, which I think would lead nicely if we were going to lead into like the kind of player that Neymar is, the kind of players that we love seeing. I mean, I watch Neymar's flicks and skills. Him and Santos was just those YouTube videos. Neymar was one of the very first. Him, I think, and your captain for your team actually was nearly, I think, bought by Real Madrid solely based on his fucking YouTube
YouTube
videos.
videos for sure.
We're one of like the first like YouTube superstars, right, of football. Before he made it onto our main screen, like Neymar, before he came, he was like a YouTube star because of his goals and tricks and stuff. And we love that, and that brought us to screens. Where are those players? Where are all of
Yeah.
those players that we used to like love? I mean, I love the 1-2 ticker pass. I love all kinds of goals, but I love the Maverick players the most. I love the players that take the
Can
ball,
split a
take on their man.
defense. Yeah.
Exactly. They make us gas. They make us look at the highlight reels. They make us try to do the tricks in the backyards. Those players. What has happened to them in the modern game? We
They've
used
been
to
coached
see
out.
so many of them. They get coached out, but why? Don't we want that individualism? Are we not crying out for that? Let me tell you, some of the best players in my world, obviously now, I don't know if this is now something to look at. Some of these players, something happened to them. Now, I don't know it's because they're such mavericks, right? There was this guy. His name was Hatem Ben Arfa,
Mm.
left
Streets will never
footer.
forget.
Never, ever forget this guy. Played for Newcastle. This kid was just, he made things look like just gorgeous, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another one from the Premier League, played for QPR. Adel Taarabt. Okay.
Taarabt.
Now, Harry Redknapp had a story about this guy, how like he watched him one time and was like amazed this guy can take us places. He would nutmeg like five people, but then give the ball away, and how he told his team like not to pass the ball in their own half, but pass the ball once they're across half because he was that good.
Mm.
Players who would just change the game, who would take a man on, they would dazzle, twinkle dust, they would knife through butter. They were like watching the space cadets in space on Star Trek with Harry Potter in a freaking Nirvana. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like people who are able to manipulate the football and their opponent's legs. They're all of them in all sports. We have those mavericks, but in all sports we praise them. But currently in football, and I think you said it, they're being coached out. Where are they going? Where are they? We've seen players who used to take on players now go forward and then pass back. Or rather instead of taking their player on, they look for the square pass. Is it because coaches, like you said, like Pep, who are great coaches, great statisticians, have coached that out of them because it doesn't work to the system that they want?
I
You've
don't
got
think
to
it's the
pass
system.
through.
I think it's efficiency. I honestly think it's just efficiency. If you look at how the modern game is, you have more athletes, and because of that, you don't have to rely on individual brilliance. While yes, you do need individual brilliance in a lot of certain areas, a lot of key areas. Right now, if a team says that they can just pass around and have 70% possession of the ball, they can still end up winning the game or drawing the game. People will take that because it's a long season. Now, when you have these tournaments, such as the Champions League or the World Cup coming up, you do need players of individual brilliance. That's why you see national teams are starting to get coaches that can do things like it's on the club stage. And I don't think that's a good thing. I think that's a really bad thing. I like the difference of play when you have a national team playing to their strengths compared to what a club team usually does. Because club teams, you're being paid to be able to set a certain type of standard. The national teams are never paid as handsomely as the club teams. Like it's almost not possible. Some of these federations cannot afford the wages that any of these
No,
club teams
no,
do.
they're not being
So
paid out. Yeah.
exactly. So what you're seeing is a little bit more freedom on the national stage. That doesn't always turn out to success on the national stage. We're seeing right now Norway, as we were just talking about Odegaard, he got big with the flicks and tricks. Norway still hasn't been able to qualify for this World Cup. They have a really strong chance to, but they still haven't. They've still yet to qualify for the World Cup upcoming. That's an issue when you have players like Odegaard, when you have the striking genius of Holland. You have two really good wings in Musa and Bob. Those are two like you should be able to dominate enough to make it into this expanded field. Now, it's going to be a real travesty that if this squad isn't able to make it and Holland cannot be on the national in their national stage like doing these things for his country, that'll be a real shame. So, again, I think it's more so about how coaches now preach efficiency over the brilliance that these players used to bring. But we'll see what happens in these national games. You're going to see a lot more in the Club World Cup for sure. A lot of the Brazilian teams are going to bring that flair. We just saw Palmeiras, they had a really good one. Flamengo is going to be playing tonight. They're going to have a really good one. Botafogo just won, and Fluminense they have a really good chance as well. So we'll see. Like if a team actually can show like okay this efficiency and this to be able to dazzle and entertain. If they mesh, it works out. If not, people have a problem.
Well, yeah, it's a balance, right? Because I mean, like any team that's really playing like their good game plan and has worked out the opportunities and weaknesses of the other team, regardless of how they are playing with flair or without, then those are really going to be that's the team's going to win, right? So I think that interesting point that you mentioned though is something that the issue with clubs, obviously with internationals, they have less time with their teams. Um, but I think that with a team like Norway, they just, they are limited, right? I mean, unfortunately, they have talent in some places, but they're essentially Armenia.
Yeah.
And what they are and is, and I'm not going to say
Norway
it,
has
like you said, they're
good
golden.
squad.
They're in their golden era right now.
Yeah.
In their
This is
golden
their best
era,
that they can get. Yeah.
yes. Don't forget, they're also in the European qualifying groups, which means they play against the worst that they're pretty much like the worst ranked team that they'll play against. I need to look at them properly. I'm not going to say is the one Malta, the one that get wiped by everyone, but they do have to play Sweden, good teams, Sweden, Denmark.
They have Finland upcoming in September. Then they have Moldova. And then Israel is one of their World Cup qualifying matches. And then Estonia and then Italy is their last World Cup qualifier. So, yeah, if they're right now top in their group, in Nations League group. No, that was the Nations League.
They won the other day. They did win the other day.
Yeah.
They played some great football. Like I said, I think it just teams, what players like Odegaard and Haaland can do is raise the profile and the abilities of those around them, and like you said, with different wings as well. So hopefully they can really build on that. I would love to see them on an international platform, getting that opportunity, most likely beating USA.
Yeah. Interesting enough. All right, I want to listen to our viewers. We did get some comments. Only one that said Raiders. So yeah, Bernardo, appreciate you. But yeah, want to see what our listeners have to say about this. Where they feel as though it lies. Like seeing individual brilliance is amazing. Like being able to watch somebody glide through an entire defense, be able to score an individual goal is awesome. I'm more of the ilk of seeing like a solid team goal. Some of those goals that Arsenal used to score, Jack Wilshere's goal against Norwich, always that just makes me happy to see like that ticky tack. But they did it in their own way. Even seeing Alexis Sanchez to Olivier Giroud with that scorpion kick after a break, a counterattack. So there are different ways to entertain. Anybody has a chance, but we'd love to hear what our viewers have to say. That individual brilliance versus that team efficiency. Do want to end off on another note about about these transfers. So Trent Alexander-Arnold, he just went over to Real Madrid, speaking perfect Spanish. Some of the most perfect Spanish I've ever heard an Englishman from the area of Liverpool ever speak. He changed his name for the back of his jersey. Used to say Alexander Arnold, and will now say just Trent, like he's Brazilian. He's no longer 66 because of rules that are applicable over into La Liga. You can't have numbers that are higher than, I want to say, in the 30s
23.
if you're in the 23. Yeah. If you're over in the first team of your squad, and he is now 12, so that's 6+6. But yeah, TC would love to see, especially as a Man United fan, seeing a rival get weaker, but not too weak as they were able to sign Jeremy Frimpong. But after seeing that, do you feel as though Trent he just made that decision to move over to Real Madrid, or do you think this was very much premeditated?
The question is, right, like while he was practicing after games, he was learning Spanish,
Yeah.
having Spanish lessons, right? And, that's what everyone's whole thing is. Where did he have time to learn Spanish? The guy was practicing Spanish the whole time. He's been looking at property, practicing Spanish. He already has a house in the Gulf Estate. Liverpool, he paid you. He wanted to get out. He knew he was leaving. But let's be honest, guys. Like, if you know you're leaving, that's okay. I mean, do we hate him for it? I don't. Hey, Trent leaving Liverpool. We discussed this. I think, it's unfortunate for them, but gives other players like Connor Bradley and other people who they might not need to strengthen, who really looks good. And for Trent being there, it's a great opportunity for him. Another challenge for him. Change his name. T-Rent. Go on, boy. Alexander Arnold's in Spanish anyway. You know what I mean? Trent, the goal, Trent. You know what I mean? So it's a lot easier phonetically to say. And I completely understand that. I think the hardest part for anybody to realize is that while Trent was lifting a trophy for Liverpool, at the same time he was going, like at the same time, you're probably doing Duolingo on the
that
parade.
Spanish that he spoke, it wasn't like that was conversational, perfect, like Spain Spanish. That wasn't anything that we would know.
That was like he paid a tutor. Yeah, he had a tutor or a friend, I bet maybe his girlfriend is a bit of French. I mean, she has some Spanish now, Maybe she was giving him the right. Anyway, point is, I think that's what you do. You prep for your job, right? If any of us were going to a new job, wouldn't you want to be prepped for your new job? What we heard from past with Gareth Bale was that after like 6 or 7 years, this dude didn't know a lick of Spanish.
Yeah.
And I think when you go in there and do exactly, let me be calling a puto bendejo, and then you are sitting there, oh yeah, what time is my bendejos, So I think it'd be interesting that you want to assimilate as quick as possible, and as a defender, it's very, very important to be able to communicate and to be able to hear and understand what's being said around you. So for his position, it's with a capital F important that he is able to communicate with those around. Don't forget, Courtois does speak Spanish. He's got Alba. He's got Militao. He's got he could be on the left side sometimes. Caraval. So there are people who do speak Spanish, but you've got to know. Dudes might be speaking quick and go, oh gosh, like, hey, right on you, hey, man on. Then I'll say man on the way, Trento,
Yeah.
It's gonna be in Spanish. Corte cera, So all those things I think are just like him just being prepped, and I guess it's tough for Liverpool fans to see, but they need to just suck a dick.
We're going to get our first look at Trent over in a Real Madrid jersey on Wednesday, Club World Cup versus Al Hilal. That'll be a really fun match. But yeah, that was really all we have for the show today. TC, how you want to close this out?
Thank you very much, guys. Please don't forget to follow us on the socials and TikToks. Remember, keep your head over your knee and follow through.
Yeah, TC was scoring some goals this weekend, so man is feeling like he's Beckham right now. Glad to see it. But yeah, I want to thank everybody again for giving us a listen. Y'all have a great one. Peace.